On a dark night, the town's residents gathered at the Night Theatre to watch a special performance. The leading roles in the show were played by the famous actress Amanda Hart and the talented actor Michael Knight. This night, they were taking the stage to perform a classic drama. However, what unfolded on the stage would quickly turn into a horror-filled reality that no one had expected. As the curtains rose, the audience began to watch the performance with enchanted fascination. Amanda and Michael were mesmerizing the audience with their performances. However, the play on the stage quickly started to merge with the real world. Initially, subtle deviations went unnoticed, but they soon led the actors to find themselves immersed in reality. During a dramatic kissing scene on the stage, Amanda and Michael suddenly shared a real kiss. The audience watched in astonishment, thinking that it was a stage necessity. However, things took an even stranger turn. Furniture pieces on the stage started moving and swaying toward the actors. Amanda and Michael attempted to exit the stage, but the stage curtain was tightly closed under the terrified gazes of the audience. The events on the stage spiraled out of control. Backstage lighting equipment short-circuited and burst, plunging the theater into darkness. As the audience screamed in the dark, they could sense that something horrifying was happening on the stage. The curtain was stained with what appeared to be blood, and Amanda and Michael realized that something was pursuing them on the stage. The fearful expressions of the actors sent shivers down the spines of the spectators. They were no longer just watching the show. They had begun to experience real horror. The explosion of the lights and the disappearance of the actors in the darkness marked the beginning of this horrifying event, where the spectators found themselves in a struggle for survival. As the boundaries between the stage and the real world blurred, the audience had no idea how to navigate this terrifying night, or where the horrific events in the theater would lead. Behind the stage curtain lay a horrifying truth, and the spectators were trapped inside the theater building. Due to the short-circuited lighting system, the theater had become a dark trap. Amanda and Michael had realized that something was pursuing them on the stage, but they couldn't grasp what it was. In the darkness inside the theater building, they could hear other spectators screaming in panic. The realization that the show had turned into a real nightmare dawned on the actors, and they decided to go backstage to check if the audience was safe. Backstage, it appeared as if a fire had broken out due to the short circuit of the lighting system. Flames were spreading rapidly, and smoke enveloped the theater building. The actors rushed to the location of the fire to see if the audience was safe. However, the reality was worse than expected. The spectators had reached the doors of the theater building, but they couldn't get out. The doors were tightly locked and wouldn't open. In fear and desperation, everyone, including Amanda and Michael, had collapsed against the doors. The thing behind the stage curtain was now closer than ever. Like a shadow, it was manifesting itself beyond the stage curtain. While the actors tried to determine whether this entity was real or an illusion, the flames surrounding them were rapidly closing in. Amanda and Michael knew they had to take action. When they saw that the doors wouldn't open, together with the audience, they had to find a way to unravel the mystery behind the stage curtain and escape this horrifying nightmare. However, in this dark theater, every step was filled with more danger and uncertainty. The fear behind the curtains persisted. Amanda and Michael found themselves trapped in the midst of the horrifying events inside the theater building, together with the audience. They continued to search for a way to unravel the mystery behind the stage curtain and escape this nightmare. The doors were locked, and the fire was spreading rapidly, so they had to find an alternative way out. The mysterious entity behind the stage curtain had become even more pronounced. Like a silhouette, it appeared and disappeared in the darkness. Amanda and Michael had a growing sense that this entity was real. However, they still didn't know what kind of threat this entity posed beyond the stage curtain. As the fire approached rapidly, Amanda and Michael discovered a window on the old first floor of the theater building. If they could escape through the window, they might be able to call for help. However, the window was protected by iron bars. Michael attempted to find a way to remove the bars without drawing the attention of the strange entity behind the stage curtain. Meanwhile, Amanda moved to find the fire suppression system to control the fire. However, Both tasks would prove to be far from easy. The interior of the theatre building was filled with fear and desperation, but Amanda and Michael were fighting with one last hope to find an escape route. Both for themselves and for the other audience members, they were prepared to take further steps to unravel the mystery behind the stage curtain and break free from this horrifying nightmare. As Amanda entered the fire suppression system room, she was met with a terrifying sight. The fire system had been strangely disabled, and the mysterious entity she had seen on the stage before had appeared in the room. This entity moved like a wandering shadow on the stage, and was now in the corner of the room, watching the progress of the fire. Amanda had to confront this entity and fight it. However, the entity kept vanishing and reappearing before physically touching her. Amanda attempted to regain control of the fire suppression system, but the entity continued to thwart her efforts. Meanwhile, Michael was fighting the entity to remove the iron bars behind the stage curtain. Instead of physically harming him, the entity was challenging him mentally. Michael struggled to withstand the entity's attack while continuing to remove the bars. Most of the audience members were aware of the horrifying events inside the theatre building, and they continued to pound on the doors in panic. The doors were still firmly locked, but perhaps Amanda and Michael's efforts could lead to finding an exit. In the midst of all these horrifying events, Amanda and Michael were trying to unravel the mystery and the entity behind the stage curtain. The fire was still advancing, and time was running out for the other audience members' salvation. Where would the end of these horrifying events lead? Amanda and Michael were right in the midst of the horrifying events inside the theatre building. They were battling the entity while also trying to find a way for the other audience members to escape. The fire was spreading rapidly, and the doors were still locked, while Amanda struggled with the entity. In the fire suppression system room, Michael was fighting the entity to remove the iron bars behind the stage curtain. The entity was attacking them from both sides, and with each passing minute, more fear and uncertainty filled the air. Amanda made a final effort to regain control of the fire suppression system. The entity was testing her mental endurance, but Amanda remained resolute. Eventually, she managed to activate the system and assist in getting the fire under control. Meanwhile, Michael continued his relentless battle to remove the iron bars. The entity was bombarding him with horrifying images and sounds, but Michael maintained his determination and successfully removed the bars. Once they unraveled the mystery behind the stage curtain and dealt with the entity, Amanda and Michael quickly returned to the stage. The other audience members saw that the fire was under control, but realized that the doors were still locked. However, Amanda and Michael, working together, discovered an exit within the theatre building. As the doors finally opened due to the impact of the fire, the audience members streamed outside. Amanda and Michael decided it was time for a final confrontation with the entity. They tried to figure out how to defeat the mystery behind the stage curtain and the entity. In the midst of all these horrifying events, the boundaries within the theatre building had vanished, and the line between reality and the stage had blurred. Amanda and Michael were ready to take one final step to escape this nightmare and return to the real world. By unraveling the mystery behind the stage curtain and defeating the entity, Amanda and Michael managed to escape from the theatre building. After the terrifying events they had experienced inside the theatre, a sense of relief washed over them as they returned to the real world. However, this experience had forever changed their lives. Panic and fear still lingered among the audience members, and the memory of that night would not be easily forgotten. When they exited the theatre building, the fire suppression teams had quickly brought the fire under control. Police and emergency service teams had arrived at the scene. Everyone had made it out safely, but the traces of the terrifying events they had experienced were evident in everyone's eyes. Amanda and Michael had grown closer to each other. As a result of these events, their on-stage performance had turned into a real horror story, requiring them to cope with these events together. They now shared these terrifying memories they had lived through together. The strange and eerie experience they had inside the theatre building would remain an unforgettable memory for many. The dark secrets behind the stage curtain and the entities still held their mysteries, but Amanda and Michael emerged from this experience strengthened. The horror story Between the Curtains tells of a night when the boundaries between the real world and the stage disappeared, and it explores how life changed after these events took place. Amanda and Michael had reached the end of this terrifying story. They had lived through, but their memories would last forever.